Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Peru Tech Sectors. Thank you for joining us today in this webinar. Peru Spotlight this month, and we have a bunch of information about Peru and the tech sectors that are booming up in this amazing tech country in Latin America. So please, besides this webinar, we're going to have another Peruvian investors and connectors that will provide some extra information for you guys there that are looking forward to interact more with this amazing country. And also on March 15, we are going to have our LATAM chats, which is an interaction with some startups from Peru that are actually sharing their stories through Twitter, and they are sharing with us their experiences and challenges and some other things about the Peruvian market and how they are going global while they are in Peru, facing some opportunities and challenges there. So again, welcome to this webinar. And we are going to start about the Peru tech sectors. And now we are going to go to ask you to please, if you have any questions or comments, just wait until the webinar finished. This is going to be about 20-30 minutes. It's no really long webinar. And you can contact us through contact@latamstartups.biz, or you can place your comments or questions also through the hashtag LatamStartups. So let's start with the first, with the next here. Okay. So the startup ecosystem in Peru is relatively new in compared with the other countries in the neighborhood. And since several years, Peru has transformed the ecosystem in one of the most solid economies in the region. They have a lot of work ahead, but the country is growing, helping to develop even faster in the country. So in 2015, Peru ranked fifth in the world as the country with more initiatives to create companies. This is based in the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, GEM, 2015, and the second country with more entrepreneurial initiatives in early stage in the region after Ecuador. But also, this ranking is showing a great number of people closing up their startups. This shows, this is very, very normal. I believe this is a fact in several markets, not just in Latin America. And when you are starting up in your country to develop new solutions, you normally, have a big percent of fail in the market. Now, this is the great opportunity here to help, some of the government and private institutions that are actually supporting startups in Peru. So, to support the growing startup ecosystem, in 2014, the government of Peru founded Startup Peru, an initiative very similar to Startup Chile and Startup Brazil. Startup Chile, for those that don't know, started as the first program in the world supporting international startups with some grants. To be relocated in the country and to have an acceleration process. The reason why they did that was actually, to support the ecosystem and to kind of like a pass through that experience to all the local startups. So the startup Peru in some ways are, trying to imitate startup Chile in that fact. Although the program is not exactly the same. So Peru, the difference in Peru is that they're focused not only in international startups, but also Peru is looking to support the local talent. Startup Peru provides grants and is up to 50K to startups and incubators, and they're in their way to provide some funding, some extra funding for investor angel funds. The good news is that in Peru, everything is there to be done, and they are still in the process to understand how to work and how to grow their own ecosystem. They have already startups scaling up new countries and productive, and even more, they need the international experience to make something meaningful for the ecosystem. Peru is not an easy country. You need to be patient with the local culture and the way they do business, and you need to visit several times your clients and partners in order to get results. The business culture is different than the neighborhoods and than the neighbor, and you need to be aware of that and adapt your strategy according with the ecosystem. How do you do that? Well, you find that through the local connectors that can guide you into getting to that goal for you. And now this is the topic for our next webinar. So in the next webinar, you will find those connectors and investors in place that will help you with that part. As the ecosystem continues to develop, there are some sectors that have an enormous potential to keep growing to the type of economy and ecosystem Peru has. So let's start with the ICT sector. As the other country, Peru also has seen a good potential to develop an ICT solution. It is cheap, it doesn't require much time to develop solutions, and it is the tendency around the world. Startup Peru receives dozens of applications in this area. When the program was designed, it was made to support the first year to support 48 entrepreneurs, and then the second year 100 entrepreneurs, and then the third year, which is this one in 2016, the projection is to support 120 entrepreneurs. It's worth to notice that Peru is in a presidential elections this year. Reason why it's better to wait until the next government comes up in order to see what are the next steps for Startup Peru. But also, you will see that there are many other players in the market. You have like Lima Valley, you have Guaira, you have so many other players that are also supporting, startups in Peru in their incubation and acceleration process. As I mentioned, at Guaira is an accelerator with presence in several countries in Latin America. They focus on media, and they give also 50K as a seed funding for those startups developing new applications. And up to date, and after 5 years in the country, Guaira has received 4,500 projects, and it has more than 40 startups valuated over $10 million each one. So you can see there that actually, the startup sector is started to booming up. As you can see, these companies are getting valuated, and they are growing up to different countries and in the region. Of course, they are thinking in go global too. So here we are going to show some interesting numbers. 52% of the population in Peru has access to internet. 43% have access to through internet through smartphones. It's calculated that smartphones has around 6 million users in Peru. 99% of those users are posting and interacting in social media networks. Usually, Peruvians access 3 to 6 social media networks, being Facebook the most popular one. Buying through internet is also increasing, although the numbers are still low in compared with other countries in the region. Up to date, 11% of the population that have access to internet buy online. 6 of 10 users of smartphones watch videos, and an habit that before was used to be done through their laptops and desktops. So you can see there is a tendency to use even more and more smartphones in the market. As the penetration of the smartphones keeps increasing, also, in all Latin America, Peru is no exception. Peru is one of the countries that have seen the most increased smartphones in the market in the last year. Other of the significant advances that the penetration of internet in Peru is the countryside. In 2014, access to internet has increased from 2% to 13.5%. So you may think, okay, 13.5% is not like a big number for countryside, but you have to understand that still, the country needs to develop a lot of infrastructure around the countryside to, get enough access to those towns that are really far away, that they are, in the mountains, or they are in the north or south, very far away from the capital city, that is Lima. Mainly, all the the business activities in Lima, this is kind of different in compared with some of other countries in Latin America. But they have also Arequipa that is coming up after, but mainly the big activity is coming from Lima. So the second cities, third cities are still developing infrastructure and solutions to get access to internet, or to different potential projects that may help them to improve that accessibility to internet. Now, if we are going to talk about, the other sector that is really, really important for Peru is the mining and energy sector. This is actually part of the economy in Peru. And as other countries in Latin America, Peru are facing some challenges in the mining sector. Energy also represents a good challenge. The consumption of energy in the country is expensive, and there is still some part of the country that are facing lack of energy in the towns. Innova Peru is part of the national plan of diversification of the government of Peru. And through the Ministry of Production, which is the same ministry that has in charge of Startup Peru, Innova Peru has released news and has shown some numbers. Until now, they have supported 700 projects with a component in tech innovation. Part of those grants has gone to R&D. So Innova Peru has also supported important trade missions to find a way to create innovation in the mining sector. One of those trade missions actually was recently happened in Chile in November 2015. In that trade mission, they identified some new developments in the mining sector and some new ways to cooperate each other, Chile and Peru, as the mining is a big component of the economy for those countries. As I have mentioned, Chile, I have also to mention that Chile trade show is similar to PDAC in that way here in Canada. So Expo North is the second biggest trade show in the world. Peru has their own one. Peru has Peru Mine, and there are trade shows in Peru and Arequipa. Every 2 years they change the city, either Lima or Arequipa. So for specific for Expo North, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is because they step ahead and they actually brought 15 startups that are developing new innovation tech solutions for the mining sector last year. So to bring this startup at the second biggest mining trade show created a huge opportunity for both traditional mining companies and startups to find new solutions in the market. And the energy sector is also very linked to the mining sector, because it also provides all the energy to continue working in the mines and all the activity, around the infrastructure, highways, and etc. So for the energy sector also, it's important for Peru to find new solutions. And in this way, they are also improving with solar panel technology, helping to find other ways to use energy and to develop new infrastructure in the country. So this is very important because for those international startups that are developing solutions in the mining sector and energy sector, green tech and clean tech is really important for the country, to learn about those new solutions in order to implement them in the country if it's possible, if it fits with their strategy, for the future. Also, it's good for international startups and international investors to know that the country is also, put in a big effort in R&D in order to provide those, those funding seeds to the local startups, and create solutions by their own. The interaction with international startups or international investors with those locals will actually create a great opportunity for Peru, not just for Peru, for the global market in mining and energy, to support, that specific sector. So let's move on for fintech. That is the third sector that we are talking right now. Fintech solutions in the financial sector are also in need in Peru. The country has one of the strongest financial sectors in Latin America. Reason why some startups has concentrated efforts to develop solutions in this area. Crowdfunding and virtual money as Bitcoin is still not regulated in Peru, but right now, do that problem, actually, the market probably will change because more startups are trying to develop solutions in that area. So it may force the change in the laws in some point. But the problem is there is still, there are people that are trying to create crowdfunding platforms or fintech solutions, and this is still something that they are trying to improve, and they are trying to connect with the government in order to regulate those parts. And the reality right now is the Peru banks are pushing through unified digital payments to a digital payment system. And the reason why that's happening right now is that 4 in 5 Peruvians don't have a bank account. 4 in 10 Peruvians don't have a bank account. And in the country, 30 million people, this is a country of close to 30 million people. About 32 million cell phones are in the market. And if you think, how come, a country with close to 30 million people have 32 million cell phones in the market? The reason why is that sometimes people may have 2 or 3 cell phones in order to connect with, different kind of companies. This is very similar that they happen in other countries also in Latin America. But it's also worth it to notice that only a quarter of that amount are smartphones. So the leading Peruvian banks have teamed up and they get the money moving through those phones. And on December 15, Peru Digital Payments, a company owned by and operated by a country leading financial institutions, launched Beam. And that is a mobile payment program that unites all their online customers' interfaces in one system. Some of the Peru biggest companies, including beer market Barcus and Johnson, and they signed up to start using Beam, and for transactions with retailer beginning in March. Barcos is a subsidiary of SAP Miller, which is a huge, company in the beer sector, and they actually collect most of the payments weekly from 150,000 bodegas in small shops, and many high in the Andes or near to the Amazon. Dealing with cash requires a lot of processes by hand and expenses and risk. This is something that mentioned Luis Guzman, the company treasurer. treasurer, and each year they receive over 50 million coins. So imagine that. As you see, this is some of the reasons why, banks are moving on through fintech solutions like this one that we just gave the example. And it is coming up even bigger and bigger for the next year. Uh, that is going to increase the number of startups that will create solutions in this area because the necessity is there. Um, so for the fintech sector, we are expecting that it will boom up very, very soon. Right now we are already seeing some of the first startups in that sector, but it's going to increase in the next years. So as you can see, Peru has a great potential in to buy and also to create solutions for the market. What is the really good positive side about Peru in the tech sector, besides the fact that Peru is actually new to the market? Being newest in the market can actually create a big potential to develop new solutions, to develop new ecosystem based in their social and economic realities that they have at this point. So basically, that's the information about the tech sectors that we have in Peru. So as you can see, there is information about ICT, mining and energy, and fintech. And those are the sectors that we are recommending international startups and international investors to focus on. Also, there are other sectors behind that is coming up. Also is social innovation. Of course, there are many causes, many innovation in that area that is coming soon, but it still is in the process to understand the concept of social innovation and how they can improve that part in the country, because that's a huge necessity also in the country. So the opportunity really is there. Now, I like to tell you about our next webinar with Peru investors and connectors. And you can see there we are going to have three guests, and one of them is Patrick Watson. Patrick is an investor of IDEF International, and actually he focuses in social innovation. So he for sure will talk a little bit about that. And the other guest is Gary Ortega. He is co-founder on Cine Papaya, and this is the startup from Peru. Everybody knows Gary. So he's the success story in Peru, and one of the things that we really like about Gary is that he never left Peru. Besides the huge success he has with Cine Papaya, and his company is valuated, I believe, more than $7 million. So he will actually tell us that, because I don't have the number here with me. But he has a good valuation, and he's over, I believe, 11 countries now. Working as well in the Pacific Island countries, expanding his business. He's also supporting some other startups in the ecosystem. So it will be good to hear Gary, from his own words, what is the ecosystem in Peru and how you can develop business there. And the other person is also very important, Gonzalo Villaran, is right now working with the Tech Ventures. He used to be director at Guaira, which is the accelerator that I mentioned at the beginning. So Gonzalo is actually, I believe Tech is working very, very close with the mining sector, and they are developing solutions in different areas. And Gonzalo will tell us as well, what is the perspective, for UTech Ventures regarding, what is going on in the ecosystem and how they see the future of Peru in the startup ecosystem. So for that part, I hope you join us on March 13th. This is a free webinar as well. So you can, just sign up, and we can talk with all those three. And for sure, the LATAM chat that is going to happen on March 15th as well. And finally, please remember that we have the LATAM Startups Conference in Mexico this year. It's October 12th to 14th. And we hope to see many of the international startups that are scaling up there. and also the leaders of the startup ecosystem in Latin America and Canada, as we partner with Canada to this the conference every year. So now we are going to move up to some questions. If you have some questions at this point, we're glad to hear about those. And I'm going to review here. Where are the questions? So I have a first question from Oscar in Alberta, and he's actually asking, if there is any trade mission coming up soon to Peru. We are actually planning a trade mission in April. That's why the Peru is in the spotlight right now in March. So that trade mission, will include probably to visit several of the players in the market, and we hope you can find information about that. Just email us and we can tell you about that. There is also several things happening in April, and in Peru is the Innovation Week in April. I think it's in the same time that we are going to have the mission, so there are some activities around. It's around April 20th, and you can also, depending on the profile of your startup, if you have a startup that I kind of don't know right now, but if you have a startup, depending on your profile, you can find also some international events happening in Peru this year, so you can join those events too. And okay, here we have second question from Mark. I think he's in Vancouver. Okay, he's asking if international startups can apply to Startup Peru. I believe the process in Startup Peru is that actually they have, some funding for international startups. But as far as I understand, you need to actually, create a partner with locals in order to apply. You have to have a component of a number of locals to actually apply for those grants. You can review directly in the website, or if you send us the question, we probably can ask somebody from Startup Peru or somebody from the ecosystem to answer more effectively that question. But you certainly can apply for Startup Peru. I've seen many international startups trying to get there, and it's a good ecosystem, depending also what kind of profile do you have, and if it makes sense that you match the system that they have, then you are more than welcome to actually be part of Startup Peru through their selection process. And okay, and a final question here from Caroline in Toronto, and she's asking about what kind of trade missions, what kind of trade shows are in Peru regarding. Okay, those are Peru mine as far an Expo Mina. One is in Arequipa and one is in Lima. And Expo Mina and Peru Mine are every 2 years. So they, 1 year is one, the other year is the other. And I believe that happens normally in September, around September, August, September, I believe it's September. We can check the calendar for you. If you have a startup, probably it makes sense for you to go there. And you can share what is your development in that sector. So that's everything for now. If you have more after the webinar, just please send us the questions through contact@latamstartups.biz or to the hashtag LatamStartups, and please provide us also feedback. We like to know your opinion about our webinars. We try to provide the best information possible for you guys, and at the end of this month we are going to have a complete report about the Peruvian tech ecosystem and how it's developing right now, and that those sectors in Peru, that is going to be, of course, more completed the webinar that we're passing at this point. So please join us in the next webinar on March 23rd. And thank you so much for your questions today. Bye now.